Jake Morrison stared out the window of the horizon's edge as the ship approached the planet below. His hands were sweaty. He had studied alien cultures for 6 years, but this was his first real mission. The Valerian homeworld looked beautiful from space, covered in silver cities that sparkled like diamonds. Nervous? Captain Lisa Hayes asked as she walked past him. A little, Jake admitted. He was 28 years old and still felt like he didn't belong on a diplomatic ship. He was better with books than people. Just remember your training. Be polite. Don't touch anything unless they say it's okay. And for God's sake, don't start any wars. Lisa smiled, but Jake could tell she was serious. The Valerians had invited humans to their world 3 months ago. Nobody knew why. The Valerians were ancient and powerful. Humans were new to space, barely past their own solar system. When the invitation came, Earth's government nearly had a panic attack trying to decide what to do. They sent the horizon's edge with their best diplomats, scientists, and one very nervous xenobiologist named Jake. The ship landed in a massive spaceport. Jake followed the diplomatic team down the ramp. The air smelled like flowers and something else he couldn't identify. Sweet but strange. Then he saw them. The Valerians, they were humanoid, which surprised him. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. But their skin was pale blue and covered in patterns that glowed softly. The patterns moved and changed color as they walked. It was beautiful and a little unsettling. A group of Valerians waited for them. They wore long robes that seemed to flow like water. The one in front stepped forward and spoke in perfect English. "Welcome to Valara. I am High Chamberlain Torin. The Emperor sends his greetings." Captain Hayes stepped forward and began the formal greeting that she had practiced 100 times. Jake stood in the back, trying not to stare at the glowing patterns on the Valerian's skin. Then someone else arrived. She was younger than the others, and her patterns glowed brighter. Gold and silver lights danced across her skin. She wore a simpler robe, deep purple, and her eyes were large and curious. "This is Princess Liara," the Chamberlain said, sounding slightly annoyed.
"She has requested to serve as your cultural guide during your stay." Princess Liara smiled at the humans.
"I hope my father's invitation did not frighten you. We mean no harm. I am simply very curious about your people." Her voice was soft but clear. Jake noticed she looked directly at him when she spoke. He felt his face get hot and looked at the ground. The Valerians took them to their quarters in the palace. The rooms were huge and beautiful, with walls that seemed to be made of crystal. Jake shared a room with Kevin Lawson, one of the diplomatic officers. "Did you see the princess?" Kevin asked as he unpacked his bags. "She kept looking at you." "She was looking at everyone," Jake said. "Sure she was." Kevin grinned. "Lucky you. She's gorgeous. For an alien, I mean." Jake threw a pillow at him. The next 3 days were full of meetings and tours. Princess Liara was with them constantly. She asked a million questions about Earth, about human culture, about everything. Jake found himself answering most of her questions. The other diplomats talked about politics and trade. Jake talked about music and food and why humans like dogs so much. Liara seemed fascinated by everything he said. She laughed at his jokes, even the bad ones. She touched his arm when she wanted his attention. Her patterns glowed brighter when she was excited. "Your people live such short lives," she said one evening as they walked through the palace gardens. "How do you not despair?" "We don't think about it much," Jake said. "We just try to enjoy the time we have." "How wonderful," Liara said softly. "We live for centuries, but I think we have forgotten how to truly live. Everything moves so slowly here. Nothing changes. Nothing excites us anymore." Jake didn't know what to say to that. He looked at the alien plants around them, glowing in the twilight. "This is all pretty exciting for me," Liara laughed. "Yes, I suppose it would be." On the 4th day, the Valerians announced a ceremony. It was a formal occasion, and all the humans had to dress in their best clothes. Jake wore his diplomatic uniform and felt ridiculous. The ceremony was held in a great hall with a ceiling so high Jake couldn't see the top. Hundreds of Valerians attended, all wearing formal robes. The Emperor sat on a throne that seemed to be carved from a single giant crystal. Captain Hayes and the Emperor exchanged formal speeches. Jake understood about half of what was said. Then the Chamberlain announced it was time for the rite of welcome. "Captain Hayes," the Emperor said, "as our honored guests, we ask that you participate in our traditional ceremony of friendship. It is a simple gesture. You will share a cup with one of our people and exchange tokens as a symbol of trust between our worlds." Lisa looked at Jake. "You're the cultural expert. Is this okay?" Jake had read about Valerian ceremonies. This sounded harmless. It should be fine. It's just symbolic. The Chamberlain brought forward an ornate cup filled with a glowing blue liquid. The captain may choose any Valerian present to perform the rite with. Before Lisa could choose, Princess Liara stepped forward. "Father, may I have the honor? I have spent the most time with our guests." The Emperor looked surprised but nodded. "If you wish, daughter." Liara walked to Captain Hayes, but then she turned to Jake. "Actually, I would like to perform the rite with Jake Morrison, if that is acceptable. He has taught me so much about your people." Every Valerian in the room turned to look at Jake. He felt his face burn red. Lisa gave him a look that said, "Don't mess this up." Okay," Jake said, his voice cracking slightly. Liara smiled and took his hand. Her skin was warm, warmer than he expected. She led him to the center of the hall. The Chamberlain handed her the cup. "We drink together," Liara said. She raised the cup to her lips and drank, then handed it to Jake. Jake drank. The liquid tasted like honey and starlight, if starlight had a taste. It made him feel warm inside. Then Liara took something from her robe. It was a small crystal pendant on a chain. "I give you this as a token of friendship." She placed it around his neck. Her fingers brushed his skin as she fastened the clasp. Jake fumbled in his pocket and pulled out the only thing he had, a small pin from Earth with the symbol of the diplomatic corps. "I give you this," he said, feeling stupid. His token seemed so plain compared to hers, but Liara's face lit up, her patterns blazing with gold light. She took the pin and held it like it was made of diamonds. Then she did something unexpected. She kissed his cheek. The room erupted in murmurs. Jake stood frozen. Liara's lips had been soft and warm. She smelled like those flowers from when they first landed. The Chamberlain quickly announced the ceremony was complete. Liara stepped back, still smiling. Jake walked back to the other humans in a daze. What just happened? Lisa whispered to Kevin. "I have no idea." Kevin whispered back. That night, Jake couldn't sleep. The crystal pendant lay on his chest, glowing softly in the dark. Something felt different. He felt different. Like something important had happened, but he didn't understand what. 3 weeks passed. The negotiations between humans and Valerians went well. Treaties were drafted. Trade agreements were discussed. Princess Liara continued to spend time with Jake, showing him more of her world. They talked for hours. She told him about growing up in the palace, about the weight of being royal. He told her about growing up on Earth, about his sister Kate and his dad Greg. They laughed together. They watched sunsets together. Jake tried not to think about what that meant. Then one morning, Jake woke to urgent knocking on his door. He opened it to find 2 Valerian guards. "Jake Morrison, you must come with us immediately. The princess requests your presence. It is urgent." His heart pounded as he followed them through the palace. They led him to Liara's private chambers. She was waiting for him, pacing back and forth. Her patterns flickered with colors he'd never seen before. "Jake," she said when she saw him, "I need to tell you something. Something wonderful has happened." "What is it?" Jake asked, suddenly very awake. Liara took his hands. Her face was full of joy. "I am pregnant. We are going to have a child." Jake's brain stopped working. The words didn't make sense. "What?" "The ceremony," Liara said. "When we drank from the cup and exchanged tokens. In my culture, when performed with true affection, it is a binding courtship ritual, a marriage. And our species, we can have children with those we bond with emotionally. It is rare, but it happens. And it has happened with us." Jake's legs felt weak. He sat down hard on a nearby chair. "But I didn't know." "I didn't mean to." "I know," Liara said, kneeling in front of him. Her patterns had shifted to soft, warm colors. "I should have explained. But Jake, I am so happy. This child will be blessed, a bridge between our peoples. Can you not see how wonderful this is?" Jake looked at her glowing face. He thought about Earth, about his career, about his life that had just become infinitely more complicated. "This is going to be a problem," he said quietly. Jake sat in Captain Lisa Hayes' office with his head in his hands. Lisa paced back and forth behind her desk. Kevin sat in the corner looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. "How could you not know?" Lisa asked for the 3rd time. "You're the cultural expert." "I read about Valerian ceremonies," Jake said miserably. "But there are hundreds of different rituals. I thought it was just a welcome ceremony, a symbolic friendship thing. Well, it was symbolic, all right, Kevin muttered. Symbolically binding. Lisa shot him a look that made him shut up. She stopped pacing and leaned on her desk. Okay, we need to think this through. Does anyone else know? Liara said she told her personal physician. She has to tell the Emperor soon. Valerians can sense pregnancy early. Others will notice the change in her patterns. How long do we have? Maybe a day. 2 at most. Lisa rubbed her face. This is a diplomatic nightmare. We came here to make friends, not to get their princess pregnant. I didn't mean to, Jake said for what felt like the 100th time. I know. Lisa's voice softened. But intent doesn't matter now. What matters is how we handle this. How is she? Kevin asked quietly. The princess, I mean. Jake looked up. She's happy. Really happy. She says the child will be blessed. A bridge between humans and Valerians. And how do you feel? Lisa asked. Jake didn't answer right away. How did he feel? Terrified, confused, but also something else. When Liara had told him, when her face had lit up with pure joy, something in his chest had tightened. Not in a bad way. I don't know, he said honestly. Dr. Amy Chen came to examine Jake that afternoon. She was the ship's medical officer, smart and practical. She took blood samples and ran scans. Your biology is compatible with Valerians, she said, reading the results. I would have said that was impossible, but here we are. Their species can reproduce with others they form deep emotional bonds with. It's built into their genetics somehow. Is the baby going to be okay? Jake asked. That's what worries me, Amy admitted. We have no data on human Valerian hybrids because there have never been any. I'll need to work with Valerian physicians. We'll have to monitor everything very carefully. Jake felt sick. He hadn't even thought about that. What if something went wrong? What if the baby wasn't healthy? Does the princess understand the risks? Amy asked. I don't know. I haven't really talked to her since she told me. You should. She's probably scared too, even if she doesn't show it. That evening, Jake went to find Liara. The guards led him into her chambers. She was standing by the window looking out at the city lights. Her patterns were a soft blue-green, peaceful. Jake, she said when she saw him, I was hoping you would come. We need to talk, he said. Yes, we do. She gestured to a sitting area. They sat down across from each other. Are you angry with me? Liara asked. I should have told you what the ceremony meant. I knew humans didn't understand our ways, but I felt such a connection with you. When the opportunity came, I acted on impulse. That is very unusual for my people. I'm not angry, Jake said. Just confused. And scared? Scared of what? Everything, the baby. What this means. What Earth will think. What your people will think. Liara reached across and took his hand. My people will be divided. Some will celebrate. Some will be horrified. The court is very traditional. A half-human child in the royal line will shock them. What about your father? The Emperor? I will tell him tomorrow. I do not know how he will react. For the first time, Jake saw fear in her eyes. He may be very angry. He may force me to give up my place in the royal family. Would you? Jake asked. Give it up, I mean. Liara's hand tightened on his. Yes, I would choose this child over everything. I have never felt this way before, Jake. My people live so long that everything loses meaning. We stop feeling deeply. But when I met you, when we talked, I felt alive for the first time in decades. This child is precious to me. Jake looked at her glowing face and felt something shift inside him. I'll be here, he said. I don't know how to be a father. I don't know anything about raising a kid, especially a half-alien kid. But I'll be here. Liara smiled and her patterns blazed with gold. She leaned forward and kissed him. It was soft and gentle and made Jake's heart race. Thank you, she whispered. The next morning, Liara told her father. Jake wasn't there, but he heard about it from Kevin, who heard it from a Valerian guard, who heard it from a palace servant. The Emperor had been silent for a long time. Then he had asked to speak to Jake. Now Jake stood outside the throne room trying not to throw up. Captain Hayes stood beside him. Just be honest, she said. Tell him the truth. That's all you can do. The doors opened. The throne room was empty except for the Emperor and Princess Liara. The Emperor looked ancient and powerful. His patterns were steady silver, unreadable. Jake walked forward and bowed like Kevin had taught him. Jake Morrison, the Emperor said. His voice was deep and calm. My daughter tells me you have done something remarkable. You have managed to bind yourself to a Valerian princess through a ritual you did not understand and father a child you did not plan. Yes, Your Majesty, Jake said, his voice shaking slightly. I'm very sorry. I didn't know. The Emperor held up a hand. Did you force my daughter? Trick her? No, never. Did you act with malice or political intent? No, sir. I liked talking to her. She was kind to me. I didn't know the ceremony was binding. The Emperor studied him for a long moment. My daughter tells me she initiated the ceremony, that she felt something rare and precious with you. Is this true? Jake glanced at Liara. She nodded slightly. Yes, Jake said. We talked a lot. About everything. I enjoyed spending time with her. And now? What are your intentions? I want to be here for her. And for the child. I don't know what that means exactly, but I won't run away. The Emperor was quiet again. Then surprisingly he smiled. It was small, but it was there. My people are dying, he said. Not physically, but spiritually. We have lived so long that we have forgotten how to feel. How to truly connect. Birth rates have fallen. We drift through centuries without purpose. And then you arrive, burning with life and intensity, and in 3 weeks you have made my daughter feel more than she has felt in 50 years. Jake didn't know what to say to that. I am cautiously pleased, the Emperor continued. This child could be important, a symbol of unity between our peoples. But there will be opposition, strong opposition. Some of my court will see this as an insult, a contamination of our bloodline. I understand, Jake said. Do you? You have no idea what you have started, young human. Politics will become involved. There are forces in this galaxy that will not want to see humans and Valerians unite. That sounded ominous. Jake swallowed hard. However, the Emperor said, Liara has chosen you, and I have not seen her this happy in a very long time. So I will support this union, publicly. But you must understand the danger. What kind of danger? There are those who benefit from keeping species separate. The Krathon Dominion, for example. They have maintained power by keeping smaller civilizations divided. A human-Valerian alliance would threaten them. Jake felt cold. He hadn't thought about alien politics. He had barely thought past the next day. News reached Earth the following week. Jake's communication with his family was short and chaotic. His sister Kate screamed with excitement. His father Greg was silent for a long time, then said, Well, son, you certainly don't do things halfway. The media went crazy. Jake's face was suddenly everywhere. Human diplomat father's royal alien child was the most popular headline. There were think pieces and debates and a lot of people with strong opinions. Some people called him a hero. Some called him an idiot. Some called him a traitor to humanity. Jake tried not to read the news, but it was impossible to avoid. Politicians on Earth argued about what this meant for humanity's future. Some saw opportunity, others saw danger. Everyone had an opinion. Jake spent more time with Liara as the weeks passed. They walked in the gardens. They talked about names for the baby. They planned for a future that still felt impossible. Do you regret this? Liara asked one evening. Sometimes, Jake admitted. When I think about how complicated everything has become. But then I see you and I don't regret it at all. Liara leaned against him. You are a strange and wonderful person, Jake Morrison. I'm just a guy who likes aliens. She laughed. Yes, that is what makes you wonderful. But danger was coming, just like the Emperor had warned. 2 months after the pregnancy was announced, there was an incident. A group of Valerian nobles tried to petition the Emperor to dissolve the union. They called it improper and dangerous. The Emperor refused. That night, someone tried to poison Liara's food. The poison was caught by her taster, but the message was clear. Not everyone wanted this child to be born. Security around Liara increased dramatically. Jake wasn't allowed to go anywhere without guards. Captain Hayes suggested it might be time for the Horizon's Edge to leave, but Jake refused. I'm not leaving her, he said. Even if staying puts you in danger? Especially then. Lisa looked at him for a long moment. You've changed, Jake. When we left Earth, you were a nervous kid who could barely talk to people. Now look at you. I had to grow up fast. Yeah, Lisa said. You did. 3 months into the pregnancy, another threat emerged. Intelligence reports suggested the Krathon Dominion was sending agents to Valara. Their mission was unknown, but nothing good. The Emperor called a meeting with Captain Hayes and her senior staff. Jake was included because of his connection to Liara. The situation is escalating, the Emperor said. The Krathon see this child as a threat. They will try to prevent the birth. What can we do? Lisa asked. We must be vigilant, and we must show unity. I propose a formal announcement. A joint statement from Valara and Earth declaring support for this union and this child. Admiral Christine Wade arrived from Earth 2 weeks later with a small fleet. She was stern and professional, but when she met Jake privately, she surprised him. My superiors are split on this situation, she said. But I think what you're doing is important. Humans need allies in this galaxy, and if we can make those allies through love instead of war, well, that's something worth protecting. Thank you, Admiral. Don't thank me yet. This is going to get harder before it gets easier. Are you ready for that? Jake thought about Liara, about the child growing inside her, about everything that had changed in just a few months. I don't think I have a choice, he said. Jake was in his quarters when the alarm started blaring. He jumped out of bed and pulled on his clothes. His hands shook as he tried to fasten his boots. The ship lurched and he nearly fell. All personnel to emergency stations, Captain Hayes' voice came over the intercom. This is not a drill. We are under attack. Jake's first thought was Liara. He ran out of his room and straight into Ben Carter, the head of security. Ben was a big man, former military, always calm under pressure. Where do you think you're going? Ben grabbed Jake's arm. The palace. Liara is protected by the Emperor's guard. You need to get to the safe room. I'm not hiding while she's in danger. Ben's grip tightened. Jake, listen to me. If they're attacking, they want the princess. But they might also want you. Don't make yourself an easy target. Jake wanted to argue, but he knew Ben was right. He let himself be pulled toward the secure area of the ship. The safe room was crowded with non-essential personnel. Dr. Amy Chen was there, along with Kevin and several other crew members. Everyone looked scared. What's happening? Amy asked. I don't know, Jake said. He tried to access the ship's communications, but everything was locked down. The attack lasted 40 minutes. To Jake, it felt like 40 hours. He paced back and forth, imagining terrible things. Finally, the all clear sounded. Captain Hayes appeared on the screen. Her face was dirty and there was blood on her uniform. The immediate threat is over, she said. Krathon ships attacked both the Horizon's Edge and the palace. We fought them off with help from Valerian Defense Forces and Admiral Wade's fleet. Casualties are minimal. The palace? Jake interrupted. Is the princess safe? Lisa said. There was an attempted ground assault, but the Emperor's guard held them off. You can go see her, but take security with you. Jake ran the whole way to the palace with Ben and 3 other guards. The streets were chaotic. Valerian civilians were being evacuated. Smoke rose from several buildings. Emergency vehicles rushed past. The palace had been damaged. Part of the outer wall was blown open. Jake's heart hammered as he ran through the corridors. Guards were everywhere, but they let him pass when they saw who he was. He found Liara in a reinforced room deep in the palace. She was standing unharmed, but her patterns flickered with agitated colors. When she saw Jake, she rushed to him. You're okay, she said, holding him tight. They told me the ship was attacked. I was so afraid. I'm fine. Are you hurt? The baby, we are both fine. The guards protected me. She pulled back and looked at his face. But Jake, this is serious. They were trying to kill me. They tried to kill our child. The Emperor arrived moments later, flanked by guards. His patterns were a fierce red, angrier than Jake had ever seen. This was a coordinated assault, the Emperor said. The Krathon Dominion has declared they will not accept a human-Valerian alliance. They see your child as a symbol that must be destroyed. Then we stop them, Jake said. The words came out harder than he intended. We don't let them win. The Emperor studied him. You have changed, Jake Morrison. You stand differently now. Speak differently. People I care about are in danger. That changes you. Indeed it does. Over the next few days, the situation became clearer. The Krathon Dominion had hired mercenaries and bribed certain Valerian nobles to help with the attack. Several of the conspirators were arrested. One noble confessed under questioning that more attacks were coming. The Emperor called an emergency council. For the first time, Jake was invited to attend. He sat between Liara and Captain Hayes in a room full of Valerian officials and human officers. We face a choice, the Emperor said. We can attempt to appease the Krathon by dissolving this union, or we can stand firm and face whatever comes. Dissolving it won't help, Admiral Wade said. The Krathon don't want peace. They want dominance. If we show weakness now, they'll only push harder. I agree, said one of the Valerian generals. But we must be realistic. The Krathon have a large military. Can we withstand a prolonged conflict? Not alone, the Emperor admitted. But together, humans and Valerians, we are stronger. Then we need to make that alliance official, Captain Hayes said. Not just talk about it, actually do it. Joint defense agreements, combined forces, technology sharing. The council erupted in debate. Some Valerians were horrified at the idea of sharing their advanced technology. Some humans worried about becoming dependent on alien help. Everyone had concerns. Jake listened to them argue for an hour. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore. He stood up. "Excuse me," he said. His voice cracked slightly, but he pushed through. "I know I'm not a diplomat or a general. I'm just a xenobiologist who made a mistake. But that mistake is going to be born in 6 months. And I won't let anyone hurt my child. Not the Krathon. Not anyone." The room went silent. Every eye turned to him. "You're all talking about politics and strategy," Jake continued. "But this is about more than that. This is about whether different people can live together, work together, build something new. My child is going to be proof that it's possible. And if we give up now, if we let the Krathon scare us, then we're saying it's not worth trying. I don't believe that." He sat down, his face burning. Liara squeezed his hand under the table. The Emperor spoke. "Jake Morrison is correct. This is about more than military strategy. It is about the future we want to build. I say we stand firm. We protect this child and the alliance it represents." The vote was close, but it passed. Humans and Valerians would form a joint defense force. They would share technology and resources, and they would protect Jake and Liara's child at any cost. The Krathon didn't wait long to respond. 2 weeks later, a larger fleet arrived. This time, they brought massive warships and thousands of soldiers. The battle was fierce. Jake watched from the palace as ships fought in the sky above. Human and Valerian vessels flew together, their tactics merging. It was beautiful and terrifying. On the ground, Krathon soldiers tried to force their way into the city. The Emperor's Guard fought alongside human Marines. Ben Carter led the defense of the palace personally. Jake wanted to fight too, but Liara stopped him. "You cannot," she said. "You have no training. You would only die. I can't just hide while people fight for us. Then find another way to help. Use your mind, not your body." Jake thought about that. What could he do? He was a scientist, not a soldier. Then it hit him. He contacted Amy Chen. "Do we still have those biological scanners? The ones we use to study alien ecosystems?" "Yes, why?" "Because the Krathon are using cloaking technology. But their biology is different from Valerians and humans. If we adjust the scanners, we might be able to detect them even when they're cloaked." Amy understood immediately. "That's brilliant. Give me 30 minutes. They worked together, modifying the scanners. Then Jake took them to Ben Carter. "These can detect cloaked Krathon soldiers," Jake explained. "It's not perfect, but it should give you an edge." Ben looked at the devices, then at Jake. "You're smarter than you look, kid." The scanners worked. Soldiers using them could detect ambushes before they happened. The tide of the ground battle started to turn. In space, Admiral Wade's fleet had joined with the Valerian Defense Force. Together they were holding the line, but barely. The Krathon had more ships, and they were willing to sacrifice them. Then something unexpected happened. The Emperor made an announcement that was broadcast across the entire system. "People of the galaxy," he said, "you have watched as the Krathon Dominion attempts to destroy a child who has not yet been born. They do this because they fear change. They fear the bonds that can form between different peoples. But we will not surrender to fear. This child will be born. This alliance will stand. And any who support peace and unity are welcome to stand with us." It was a bold move, a challenge and an invitation at the same time. Within hours, ships from 3 other species arrived. They were smaller civilizations that the Krathon had bullied for years. Individually, they were weak. Together, they made a difference. The battle lasted 3 days. When it finally ended, the Krathon fleet retreated. They had lost too many ships and gained nothing. The palace celebrated, but the mood was somber. Many had died. Both human and Valerian casualties were counted. The cost had been high. Jake stood with Liara on a balcony, looking out at the damaged city. "They will come back," Liara said quietly. "The Krathon do not give up easily." "I know," Jake said. But we beat them this time. We proved we can fight together. You did well, Jake. The scanners saved many lives. I just did what I could. Liara turned to him. Her patterns were a soft, warm gold. You are a good man. A good father already, even before the child is born. Jake felt something tighten in his chest. I'm scared, he admitted. Scared I'll mess this up? Scared I won't be strong enough to protect you both. You do not need to be strong alone. We are together. She kissed him and Jake held her close. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the city. Somewhere in the distance, repair crews were already working to fix the damage. The next morning, Jake was summoned to a private meeting with the Emperor. He went nervously, wondering what he had done wrong. But the Emperor surprised him. I wanted to thank you, he said. Your quick thinking saved lives yesterday. I just wanted to help. It was more than that. You acted while others panicked. You used your knowledge in a practical way. The Emperor paused. I have been thinking about something. When this child is born, they will need protection. They will need guidance. They will need someone who can navigate both human and Valerian worlds. What are you saying? Jake asked. I am saying that you should become my daughter's official consort, a recognized member of the royal family. It will give you standing and authority. It will also make you a target, but you are already that. Jake sat down. That's a big responsibility. Yes, and you are a young man who accidentally stumbled into something enormous. But you have not run. You have not hidden. You have stood and fought in your own way. That tells me you have the strength for this. Can I think about it? Of course. But do not think too long. The galaxy is watching. We need to show unity and strength. Jake left the meeting with his head spinning, a member of the royal family, an official consort to a princess. It sounded like something from a fairy tale, except the fairy tale had space battles and political intrigue. He talked to Liara that night. She was happy about her father's offer, but told him the choice was his. I will not force you into this role, she said. It would change your life completely. You would have duties and responsibilities you never wanted. I already have responsibilities, Jake said. To you, to our child. Making it official doesn't change that. So you will accept? Jake thought about his old life. His quiet job studying alien cultures from a distance. His small apartment on Earth. His safe, predictable existence. That life was gone. It had died the moment he drank from that ceremonial cup. This new life was terrifying and complicated and dangerous, but it was also full of purpose and meaning. And he had Liara. He had their child coming. He had become part of something bigger than himself. Yes, he said. I'll accept. Liara's patterns blazed with brilliant gold light. She threw her arms around him and laughed with pure joy. Then we do this together, she said. We build our family. We protect our people. We change the galaxy. No pressure, Jake said, but he was smiling. That night, lying in bed with Liara curled against him, her hand on her growing belly, Jake realized something. He had started this journey terrified and confused. He had made mistakes. He had stumbled into situations he didn't understand. But somehow, through all of it, he had found something real, something worth fighting for. The child inside Liara kicked for the first time. Jake felt it through her hand, a tiny flutter of life. His child. His and Liara's, human and Valerian, a bridge between worlds. Did you feel that? Liara whispered. Yeah, Jake said. I felt it. And in that moment, all his fear and doubt faded. This was real. This was happening, and he was going to be the best father he could be, even if he had to figure it out as he went along. The pregnancy progressed and Liara grew more beautiful each day. Her patterns changed as the baby developed, swirling with new colors that no pure Valerian had ever shown. The palace physicians were fascinated and nervous. Dr. Amy Chen worked closely with them, comparing human and Valerian biology. Every week brought new discoveries and new worries. The baby is developing faster than a human child but slower than a Valerian one, Amy explained during one checkup. We think she'll have characteristics of both species. She? Jake asked, his heart jumping. Amy smiled. Yes, you're having a daughter. Jake looked at Liara. Her face was glowing, literally and figuratively. A daughter, she whispered. They spent that evening talking about names. Liara wanted something that worked in both languages. Jake suggested Zara, which meant princess in some Earth languages and sounded beautiful in Valerian. Zara Morrison Valara, Liara said, testing it. Yes, that is perfect. Jake practiced saying it over and over. His daughter, Zara. It made everything feel more real, but the joy was tempered by stress. The Krathon Dominion had retreated, but intelligence reports said they were regrouping. More attacks would come. Everyone knew it. Jake threw himself into work. He couldn't fight like a soldier, but he could help in other ways. He worked with human and Valerian engineers to improve defensive systems. He helped negotiate with the smaller species who had joined their alliance, using his cultural knowledge to bridge communication gaps. Captain Hayes told him he was becoming a real diplomat. "You're not that nervous kid anymore, Jake. You actually know what you're doing now." "I'm faking it," Jake admitted. "That's what diplomacy is. Everyone's faking it. You're just better at it than most." 6 months into the pregnancy, Jake's family arrived from Earth. His sister Kate and his father Greg came on a transport ship with other families of the Horizon's Edge crew. Kate hugged him so hard he couldn't breathe. "I can't believe you're going to be a dad. And married to a princess. This is insane." Greg was quieter. He shook Jake's hand, then pulled him into a hug. "Your mother would be proud of you, son. You've become a good man." Jake's throat tightened. His mother had died when he was 15. He wished she could be here to see this. Meeting Liara was awkward at first. Kate was nervous around aliens, and Greg kept staring at Liara's glowing patterns. But Liara was gracious and kind, asking them about Earth and their family. By the end of the day, Kate was showing Liara pictures from their childhood, and Greg was telling embarrassing stories about young Jake. "He was so shy," Greg said. "Couldn't talk to girls at all. And now look at him married to a princess." "He is still shy sometimes," Liara said, smiling at Jake. "It is part of his charm." Jake's face burned red, which made everyone laugh. The formal ceremony making Jake an official consort was held 2 weeks later. It was huge, with thousands attending. Representatives from a dozen species came to witness it. Jake wore a formal robe that was a blend of human and Valerian styles. He felt ridiculous, but Liara told him he looked handsome. The Emperor himself performed the ceremony, binding Jake officially to the royal family. "You are now Prince Consort Jake Morrison," the Emperor announced. "May your union bring prosperity to all our peoples." Prince Consort. Jake still couldn't believe it. A year ago, he had been a junior xenobiologist. Now he was alien royalty. But with the title came more danger. The Krathon launched smaller attacks almost weekly now. Nothing as large as the first assault, but constant harassment. Raiders would strike at human Valerian trade routes. Saboteurs would try to damage Alliance facilities. Security around Liara was intense. She couldn't go anywhere without guards. Jake hated seeing her confined, but he understood the necessity. Then came the treaty signing. After months of negotiation, humans and Valerians were ready to formalize their alliance. It would be the most significant treaty in human history, binding Earth to an advanced alien civilization. The ceremony was scheduled at a neutral space station between Earth and Valara. Leaders from both worlds would attend, along with representatives from their new allies. Liara insisted on going, even though she was 8 months pregnant. "This is important," she said when Jake protested. "Our child is the symbol of this alliance. My presence shows that we are committed no matter the risk. But what if something happens? What if the Krathon attack? They will attack whether I am there or not." "I will not hide." Jake knew that tone. There was no arguing with her. So instead, he made sure security was as tight as possible. Ben Carter led a team of 50 guards. Admiral Wade brought a fleet. The station itself was locked down completely. The ceremony was beautiful. The President of Earth and the Valerian Emperor signed the treaty together. Speeches were made about unity and the future. Jake stood beside Liara, trying not to look as nervous as he felt. Everything was going perfectly. Too perfectly. Then, in the middle of the ceremony, alarms started blaring. Red lights flashed everywhere. The station's commander's voice came over the speakers. "All personnel to emergency stations. We have multiple hostile contacts approaching. This is not a drill." Chaos erupted. Diplomats scattered. Guards rushed to defensive positions. Jake grabbed Liara's hand. "We need to get you somewhere safe," he said. But Liara went pale. Her patterns flickered erratically. She grabbed her stomach with a gasp. "The baby," she said. "Jake, the baby is coming." "What?" "Now, yes, now." Amy Chen appeared from nowhere. "Get her to the medical bay." Move! The next hour was pure chaos. The station was under attack by a Krathon strike force that had somehow bypassed the outer defenses. Admiral Wade's fleet was engaging them, but several ships had gotten through and Liara was in labor. The medical bay was a fortified section of the station. Amy had a team of both human and Valerian physicians ready. They got Liara onto a bed while Jake held her hand. "This is not ideal timing," Amy said, checking monitors. "But the baby's coming whether we're ready or not." Outside they could hear explosions. The station shook. Jake tried to focus on Liara, but part of his mind was screaming that they were all going to die. "Jake," Liara said, squeezing his hand hard enough to hurt. "Look at me." He met her eyes. Her patterns were swirling with gold and silver. "We are going to be fine," she said. "All of us. Do you understand? How can you know that?" "Because we must be. This child is too important. The universe would not be so cruel." Jake wanted to believe her. The station shook again, harder this time. Alarms were going off everywhere. Then Ben Carter burst into the medical bay. "We have Krathon boarding parties on the station. They're trying to reach this section. How long can you hold them?" Amy asked, not looking up from Liara. "As long as we need to, but it's going to get loud." "Then make it loud somewhere else," Amy said. "We have a baby to deliver." Ben nodded and left. Moments later, Jake heard gunfire in the corridor outside. It sounded close. Too close. "I need to help them," Jake said. "You need to stay here," Liara said through gritted teeth. "I need you here." So Jake stayed, holding her hand as the battle raged outside and the baby fought to enter the world. It was the longest few hours of his life. Liara was incredible. She didn't scream or panic. She breathed through the pain, focusing with a determination Jake had never seen before. Even when the lights flickered and the station shook from nearby explosions, she stayed calm. "Almost there," Amy said. "One more push, Liara." Liara pushed. And then, cutting through the sounds of battle and alarms and chaos, Jake heard a new sound. A baby crying. "It's a girl," Amy said, holding up a tiny squirming bundle. "You have a daughter." Jake stared. The baby was small and perfect. Her skin was pale but had faint patterns on it. Barely visible but definitely there. She had Liara's large eyes but Jake's brown color. She was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. Amy cleaned the baby quickly and placed her in Liara's arms. Liara looked down at their daughter, and her patterns blazed with colors Jake had never seen. Joy and love and wonder all mixed together. "Hello, Zara," Liara whispered. "Welcome to the universe." Jake couldn't speak. He couldn't think. He just stared at his daughter, this tiny person who was half him and half Liara, human and Valerian, a miracle that shouldn't exist but did. "Jake," Liara said softly, "do you want to hold her?" With shaking hands, Jake took his daughter. She was so light, so fragile. She looked up at him with wide eyes and Jake felt his whole world shift. Everything he had been before didn't matter. This was what mattered, this tiny person depending on him. "Hi, Zara," he whispered. "I'm your dad. I'm going to do my best, okay? I promise." The baby made a small sound and Jake felt tears on his face. He was crying and didn't care. Amy was talking to the Valerian physicians, checking monitors and making notes. "She's healthy. All vitals are good. The hybrid nature seems to have given her advantages from both species. Extended lifespan compared to humans, but shorter than pure Valerians. Enhanced immune system. Cognitive development looks excellent." "She is perfect," Liara said. "Yeah," Jake agreed. "She really is." The battle outside was ending. The sounds of fighting faded. Ben Carter came back in looking tired and dirty but smiling. "We held them. The Krathon are retreating. Admiral Wade's fleet broke through their lines." He looked at the baby. "So, was it worth the excitement?" "Yes," Jake and Liara said at the same time. The treaty was signed later that day, after the station was secured. But nobody really cared about the ceremony anymore. All anyone wanted to talk about was the baby born during the battle. Zara Morrison Valara became famous instantly. Her birth was broadcast across the galaxy. She was the first human Valerian hybrid, born during an attack meant to prevent her existence. People called her the Treaty Child, the Bridge Princess, the symbol of unity. Jake just called her his daughter. The next few weeks were a blur of sleepless nights and constant feedings. Zara was a good baby, but she needed attention around the clock. Jake and Liara took turns staying up with her, learning how to be parents through trial and error. Kate stayed to help, showing them tricks she had learned from raising her own kids. Greg held Zara for hours, rocking her and singing old lullabies. The Emperor visited and held his granddaughter with surprising gentleness. "She has your eyes, Jake," the Emperor said, "and Liara's spirit. She will be strong." "I hope so," Jake said. "The galaxy seems determined to make her life difficult. She will not face it alone. She has family. She has 2 entire species supporting her." That was true. Gifts arrived from Earth and Valara daily. Letters came from people across the galaxy, congratulating them and offering support. The small alliance of species they had built was growing stronger, all centered around this tiny baby who barely weighed 8 pounds. But there were also threats. Encrypted messages arrived warning them that the Krathon would try again, that enemies would never stop coming, that Zara would always be in danger. Jake read them all and deleted them. He wouldn't let fear control his life, or his daughter's life. One night, holding Zara while she slept, Jake looked down at her peaceful face. Her patterns glowed softly in the darkness, a gentle gold light. "I don't know if I'm any good at this," he whispered. "I'm making it up as I go. But I love you so much it scares me. And I'm going to protect you, no matter what comes. I promise." Zara stirred slightly as if she heard him. Her tiny hand wrapped around his finger, and Jake felt his heart break and heal at the same time. Liara came in quietly and sat beside him. "You are a wonderful father," she said. "I'm a terrified father. All good fathers are terrified. It means you understand how important she is." They sat together in the quiet darkness, watching their daughter sleep, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges. But for now, in this moment, everything was perfect. 5 years passed faster than Jake thought possible. Time moved differently when you were chasing after a child who could run faster than human kids and climb things that should be impossible to climb. Zara Morrison Valara was extraordinary. She spoke both English and Valarian perfectly, switching between them without thinking. Her patterns glowed brighter when she was happy and flickered when she was upset. She was curious about everything, asking a million questions a day. "Daddy, why is the sky blue on Earth but purple here?" she asked one morning at breakfast. "Because of the different atmospheres," Jake explained. "The gases in the air scatter light differently. Why?" "Because different planets formed in different ways." "Why?" "Because that's how the universe works." "Why?" Liara laughed. "She has your love of questions, Jake." "Yeah, and your stubbornness," Jake said, kissing Zara's head. Life had settled into something almost normal. Jake was now officially Ambassador Morrison, representing humanity in the Valarian court. It was exhausting work, but he was good at it. He understood both cultures and could bridge gaps that others couldn't. Liara had become something of a revolutionary. She used her position as princess to push for changes in Valarian society. Birth rates were increasing. Young Valarians were learning from humans how to embrace emotion and live with intensity. The culture was slowly transforming. Their marriage was strong. They had learned each other's habits and quirks. Jake knew that Liara needed quiet time in the mornings to meditate. Liara knew that Jake needed his coffee exactly right or he was grumpy all day. They argued sometimes, but they always made up. The alliance between humans and Valarians had grown into something bigger. 10 different species were now part of the Coalition for Unity, as they called it. Trade flourished. Technology was shared. A new era of cooperation was beginning, but the Krathon Dominion hadn't given up. They were just being more careful. Intelligence reports suggested they were planning something big, but nobody knew what. Then one day, everything changed. Zara was playing in the palace gardens with other children, both human and Valarian. Jake watched from a nearby bench, ready to intervene if anyone got too rough. Ben Carter stood nearby, always vigilant. Suddenly, Ben's communicator beeped urgently. He answered it, and his face went dark. "Jake, we need to move, now." "What's wrong?" "Krathon strike team." They bypassed perimeter security. "They're heading for the gardens." Jake's blood went cold. "Zara!" He ran toward his daughter. She was laughing, playing tag with a Valarian boy. "She didn't see the danger, Zara." "Come here," Jake shouted. She looked up, confused by his tone. Then she saw Jake's face and ran to him. He grabbed her and held her tight. Palace guards were rushing into the gardens from all directions. Alarms were sounding. Other parents were grabbing their children and running. "This way," Ben said, leading them toward a secure door. They almost made it. They were 10 feet away when the first Krathon appeared. He was massive, twice the size of a human, covered in armored scales. He held a weapon that looked like it could blow a hole through a wall. He aimed it at Jake and Zara. Jake didn't think. He turned his body, putting himself between the weapon and his daughter. If the Krathon fired, Jake would take the shot, but the Krathon didn't fire. Ben Carter did. His shot hit the Krathon in the chest, sending him sprawling. More shots followed as guards engaged other Krathon soldiers who had infiltrated the garden. Ben pushed Jake toward the door. "Move, more are coming." They ran. Jake clutched Zara to his chest, shielding her with his body. She was crying now, scared and confused. Behind them, the battle raged. They made it to the secure bunker deep in the palace. Liara was already there, having been rushed from a meeting. When she saw Zara, she ran to them. "Are you hurt?" she demanded, checking Zara frantically. "We're okay," Jake said. "Ben saved us." Ben was on his communicator, coordinating the response. "We have 12 confirmed Krathon infiltrators. All other children are accounted for. No casualties on our side." "How did they get through security?" Liara asked, her patterns flashing angry red. "Someone helped them. We have a traitor in the palace." That realization sent chills through everyone. Someone they trusted had betrayed them. Someone had led assassins into the palace to kill children. The investigation took 3 days. When they found the traitor, it shocked everyone. It was one of the Emperor's own advisors, a Valerian noble who had served the court for decades. He had been bribed and threatened by the Krathon. He confessed to everything. The Emperor was furious. He sentenced the traitor to exile, stripping him of all rank and title. But the damage was done. Trust had been broken. Security had to be completely rebuilt. Jake held a family meeting that night. Kate was there and Greg and Liara's personal guard. "We can't keep living like this," Jake said. "Constantly under threat. Always looking over our shoulders. Zara shouldn't have to grow up in fear." "What are you suggesting?" Liara asked. "We end this. We take the fight to the Krathon. We stop reacting and start acting." "That would mean war," Kate said quietly. "We're already at war. The Krathon just won't admit it. They attack us in small ways, hoping to wear us down. Maybe it's time we showed them we're done playing defensive." The Emperor called a war council the next day. Representatives from all coalition species attended. Jake stood and presented his plan. "The Krathon fear unity," he said. "Every time we come together, they attack to break us apart. So we show them unity. We coordinate our forces. We strike at their supply lines. We make them pay a cost for every attack they launch." "You're talking about a major military campaign," Admiral Wade said. "That requires resources and coordination we've never attempted." "Then we attempt it now. Because if we don't, they'll never stop. They'll keep sending assassins. They'll keep trying to kill my daughter and everyone else who represents what we're building." There was silence. Then the Emperor spoke. "Ambassador Morrison is correct. The time for half measures is over. We will coordinate a joint military response. The Krathon will learn that attacking our children has consequences." The campaign took 6 months to plan and execute. It wasn't a full war, but a series of targeted strikes. Human Valerian joint forces hit Krathon military installations. They disrupted supply chains. They freed species that the Krathon had been oppressing. Jake didn't fight himself. He wasn't a soldier. But he coordinated intelligence efforts using his cultural knowledge to identify targets and predict Krathon responses. He worked 18-hour days, barely sleeping. Liara managed the political side, keeping the coalition together as tensions rose. Some species wanted to pull out when casualties mounted. Others wanted to escalate further. She balanced them all with skill that amazed Jake. Zara stayed in the palace with Kate and Greg, protected by layers of security. She asked every day when Daddy and Mommy would stop being so busy. It broke Jake's heart, but he couldn't stop. Not yet. The turning point came when they discovered the Krathon homeworld wasn't as unified as everyone thought. There were factions within their society that opposed the Dominion's aggressive expansion. Jake reached out to them secretly, offering alliance and support. Some Krathon leaders accepted. They provided intelligence and even helped sabotage their own government's military efforts. It was a huge risk for them, but they were tired of endless war. The Dominion's leadership finally agreed to negotiate. They met on a neutral station, both sides bringing their best diplomats and military leaders. The negotiations were brutal. Both sides had grievances. Both had lost people. Trust was non-existent. But slowly, carefully, they worked out an agreement. The Krathon would stop their attacks on coalition worlds. The coalition would help reform the Krathon government, empowering the peaceful factions. Trade would begin, carefully monitored. It wasn't peace exactly, but it was something better than war. When Jake returned home after the treaty was signed, Zara ran to him and jumped into his arms. She had grown so much in the months he'd been busy. She was heavier now, taller. "Daddy, you're home." "I'm home, Princess," he said, holding her tight. "And I'm not leaving again for a long time." That night, tucked into bed with her favorite stuffed animal, Zara asked Jake a question. "Daddy, why do people fight so much?" Jake thought about how to answer. Because they're scared. And when people are scared, sometimes they hurt others before they can be hurt themselves. "Are you scared, Daddy?" "Sometimes. But I'm not scared when I'm with you and Mommy. You both make me brave." Zara smiled. "I make you brave?" "The bravest. Now sleep. Tomorrow we're going to Earth to visit the ocean, remember? You wanted to see where Daddy grew up. Will there be fish?" "So many fish." Zara closed her eyes, content. Jake watched her sleep for a while, thinking about everything that had happened. 5 years ago, he had been a nervous xenobiologist who accidentally married an alien princess. Now he was a father, a diplomat, someone who had helped change the galaxy. He still had no idea what he was doing most of the time. But that was okay. Nobody did. Liara found him sitting in Zara's room. She is asleep? Finally. She had about 100 questions about Earth. Liara sat beside him. "The Emperor spoke to me today. He wants to retire. He is naming me as his successor." Jake turned to look at her. "Empress Liara, that has a nice sound. It means you would be prince consort to an empress. Even more responsibility. I accidentally married a princess and had a kid with her. I think I can handle some extra responsibility." Liara laughed softly. "You still say it like that. Like it was all an accident." "It was an accident. A really good accident, but still an accident. Perhaps the universe has happy accidents sometimes." They sat in comfortable silence, watching their daughter sleep. Outside, the twin moons of Valara rose, casting silver light through the window. Somewhere far away on Earth, the sun was shining on oceans Jake hadn't seen in 5 years. The galaxy was at peace, or as close to peace as it ever got. The coalition was strong. Different species were working together, learning from each other, building something new. And it had all started because one awkward human drank from a ceremonial cup without knowing what it meant. "Do you think we'll have more children?" Liara asked suddenly. Jake looked at her, surprised. "Are you asking me or telling me?" "Asking. I would like Zara to have a sibling, but only if you want to." Jake thought about it, about the sleepless nights and constant worry, about the danger and the responsibility, about watching Zara grow and learn and become her own person. "Yeah," he said. "I'd like that." Liara's patterns glowed warm gold. "Then we should discuss it more seriously. Later, right now, I just want to sit here with you and appreciate how lucky I am." "Lucky? You were terrified when I told you about the pregnancy." "I was, but I got over it. Because you were right that first day when you told me, this is wonderful, all of it, even the scary parts." They held hands in the darkness, listening to their daughter breathe. Tomorrow they would go to Earth. Next month, Liara would become Empress. Next year, who knew what would happen? But right now, in this moment, everything was exactly as it should be. Years later, when Zara was old enough to understand, she would ask Jake about how he and Liara met. He would tell her the whole story, not leaving anything out. "So you didn't mean to marry Mommy?" Zara would ask. "Not at first, no. But sometimes the best things in life are the ones you don't plan for." "That's a weird story, Daddy." "Yeah, it is. But it's our story. Yours, mine, and Mommy's, and I wouldn't change a single thing about it." And he meant it. Every word. The accident that changed his life. The princess who chose him. The daughter who made him brave. The alliance that brought species together. The future they were building one day at a time. Jake Morrison had started as nobody special. Just a guy who liked learning about aliens. He had made mistakes and stumbled through situations he didn't understand. But somehow through all of it he had become someone important, not because of his title or his position, but because he had chosen to stay, to fight, to love, and in the end that was what mattered most. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, but the greatest wonder of all was right here, in a small room in a palace on an alien world. His family, his home, his life. A life he never planned but couldn't imagine living without. And it all started with one ceremonial cup and one very happy accident.